Burrito's First Christmas, a Bible bedtime story written, photographed, and narrated by Jonathan Abel, starring the wild burros of the Arizona Sonoran Desert. Okay, are you ready for a story? Because it's getting so close to Christmas, it reminds me of a very special kind of desert animal. Can you guess? A puppy? A little kitty? Oh, even a reindeer? Not even close. It might take a lot of guesses. Do you remember our early morning trip up to the lake? While your Uncle Don was busy fishing, we got to know some very special animals. Remember the patterns on the water that the ducks made? And the cute little cottontail rabbit warming his ears in the morning sun? And the hawk we saw on the saguaro cactus? And do you remember the sound of galloping we heard through the desert? And the donkey that stopped to say hello? Here in the Southwest, we call them burros, don't we? Just like with people, there are all kinds of burros in all kinds of colors. Well, long ago, God chose a little burro for a very important job. It must have been the most important job he had ever given to any animal. Oh, he wasn't very big. That's why they called him Burrito, which means little donkey in Spanish. And he wasn't very fast. But God knew this little burro's heart was steady and true, so he was specially chosen to carry Mary safely to Bethlehem to have her baby. The baby Jesus. That's right. She was almost ready to give birth. So maybe that little burro promised to be extra careful and walk slow and smooth so that Mary and Joseph would be able to get to town. They had a long way to go, and they didn't even have a place to stay after their long walk. That strong, patient little burro waited with Mary on his back, while Joseph asked at all the places who might give them a bed. But there wasn't room anywhere they looked. When Mary couldn't wait any more, a very kind innkeeper said they could at least stay warm out back in the shelter where his animals stayed. So that stable is where Mary had her baby. That's when I think a little burro that lived in that stable might have given up its own dinner so that Jesus would have a nice, cozy spot to lie down when he was born. You know, that might have been the very first Christmas present ever given. The gift of a manger, a warm bed for the Christ child, and it was given by a little burro. Years later, when Jesus was all grown up and had a job to do, it was another little gray burro that carried him to Jerusalem. You know, the Bible tells us that little burro had never even been ridden before. Jesus loved this little burro too. It was brave and strong, and maybe even a little proud, because his mama got to come along on the trip. And mamas are always important. With Jesus riding him, he wasn't even scared when all the people cheered and waved limbs from palm trees in his face, and threw their coats down for him to walk on, and even threw flowers and scented water on him. Not even when they crowded close around him was he afraid, not even a little. Really? because he knew that Jesus loved him. He didn't get to see Jesus anymore after that. But he knew that if any other burro asked, he could always say he had carried the Lord during his wonderful time here on earth. Do you think that all the burros in Jesus' life knew that he loved them? Well, you look. Even today, burros have a very curious little smile, don't they? And they talk to one another with the loudest, happiest sounding laughs I can think of. But the sweetest thing about burros is that wherever they live in this whole wonderful world, nearly every one of them has the shape of the cross on his back. When your great-grandpa was your age, an old Mexican caballero showed him the mark of the cross on his own burro's back, and told a story about how the Mexican people believed that the cross was a blessing from God because Jesus and his mama had ridden there. Do you think maybe all burros still remember how special they are? Good night now, and Merry Christmas.